All right. Good to see you.
It's great to be seen, and it's even better to see you, Peter. Thanks for having me on, man.
I was, so I didn't know you could do this on StreamYard. You have your background like blurred, and I did that. I was on a Google Meet call yesterday, and I was late because I spent easy like 5 minutes just being like, oh, I can make myself a cat. I can make myself a dog. I was just going through all the filters. And I was like, shit, I'm supposed to be on that call. I was like, trying to cancel all the filters I put on and go back to normal and join the call.
I tend to do that on the most important calls that we have, just literally to lighten the mood. We do that on Teams as like a chicken that can go on your head.
Have you ever seen that video of there's like a lawyer somewhere in America who like turned himself into a cat by accident back in COVID, and he's like he can't turn it off, and it's just like the judge is like, sir, I need you to turn off your, and he's like, what are you talking about? And it's just like a talking cat, and he can't. It's like he doesn't know that he's on it, and he's just like, I don't understand what you're talking about. They're like, you are a cat, sir. I'm not taking you seriously.
He knew. Those videos are the best. The ones where they have either the inappropriate name or the guy that didn't realize he didn't turn his camera off and he was going to the restroom and coming back and zipping his pants and
or like standing up and being like shirt and tie from the waist up and like dick out on the waist.
Those are some of my favorite. Those are funny.
Yeah. Right. There's a shit ton of money on the line. I was just reading the barbell spin like update on Wodapalooza. My God, like where, like, is there we'll talk about like how great it is and everything in a second, but like, is there a ceiling on this kind of stuff? Because like it kind of gets to a point where it's like, okay, last year was like whatever $500,000, and then this year it's like, all right, we're going to do more, and then it's kind of like next year you're like, oh well, I guess we better try and do more because we did more like last time and whatever else.
It certainly feels a little bit like an arms race. That's how I used to compare it to back in the day. Like, hey, we've always got to outdo the other events. And, I think there's been some events that have established themselves handedly as sort of the biggest payers in the space. But from our side, I'd say the answer to that question is no, there isn't a ceiling. And I think it's all in an effort when you look at some of the, there's a bunch of what I would say goals of Wodapalooza and the events that we produce. And one of them is to continue to professionalize the sport. In order to do that, we just need, more money to provide earning opportunities for athletes. Some of the big substantial changes you'll see here, obviously individual looks very much the same in a lot of ways. And then teams, we've paying deeper 6th to 10th and then added some more money there. And then we also had, we've added the Masters teams. So you'll see there that now there's a payout for those teams of 3. And then Adaptive also paying out more. And then we've also added the LATAM Cup and also ensured there was a payout to those athletes so they feel like they're fairly compensated for their performance. But, no ceiling necessarily. Certainly we have to be strategic and, we are a business, but we're also a platform to elevate the sport. So it's kind of finding that balance year over year.
And then tomorrow the qualifiers for the individual go.
Correct. Yeah. So that's day one. We did go out, I think it was last week or the week before with workout 1. We did publish one workout already, which is inspired by an event from a few years ago we did during the qualifier. People had a chance to look at that and kind of get a feel for what the qualifier will be like. But then tomorrow we'll release a couple of more workouts and then there's one more week. So our individuals runs 2 consecutive weeks.
Can I just say this is actually the best self-producing I've ever done, so you should really enjoy this because I'm never this quick or good. So this is like professional level. You had, so HWPO they kind of gave the like preview workout and some pacing tips. I mean, if you're taking pacing tips from Matt Fraser, you're probably doing okay, but like he's giving ideas on what they are. Are they programming all of the qualifiers, some of the qualifiers, or are they just kind of like helping with this launch?
Yeah, no, they're helping us with the launch. I think more so the way that I look at these videos, again, more strategy, like what you would do for the Open, right? You have these coaching platforms that will ultimately help their user base, their member base, their athletes prepare. And that's really more so what this is. Because we released the workout actually, I think a week before this video was published yesterday. So the plan will be actually that other programming groups will actually create similar videos for those other coming workouts, excuse me. So this is just the first one. HWPO, obviously, we have a long history with, Matt O'Keefe being a dear friend of the organization with his past involvement. And so it was a natural fit for them to lead it off.
This has to have been recorded pre-baby because Matt looks so well rested. Like it's not. I'm looking at me and like I'm more tired than he is, and my kids are like 2. Like this isn't. It's either it's not fair or it was pre. It has to have been pre-baby.
Even the hair, man, the haircut, the fresh cut, like there's
Yeah,
he looks
mustache.
way too
Yeah.
good.
No, he should be like lying down on the ground with Jake saying, "Come on, it's only going to take 5 minutes. We just need to get it done."
The baby
Um,
crying in the background, yeah. The kid looks
yeah, got like with puke on his t-shirt and stuff. So you got the online qualifier. Oh, you can see my mouse. That's handy. So the online qualifier tomorrow. So that's week 1 of that.
yeah,
Monday is registration closes. So if you're not in by Monday, you're out basically for individual.
correct.
And your scores are also due. So even if you have registered, your scores are still due on Monday. And if you haven't registered, you have until Monday to register and have your scores ready to upload. And then the following Thursday, like next Thursday, week 2, same again, Monday, scores due. And then video submissions. So is that for everything? So you upload your scores, and then all the video submissions are due next Tuesday week. Is that right?
Yeah, we give them a few days. Yeah, it's a lot of videos, right? Like
Yeah.
2 weeks of workouts, and we don't just do one workout per week in order to create a complete, and fair test. So
Yeah.
it's going to be quite a bit of uploads. We're requiring for the first time this year that everybody uploads all of their videos instead of in the past we'd call upon one or two. That sparked some controversy. Some folks that just felt like it wasn't fair if we asked for certain versus others. Certainly
Yeah.
if somebody hadn't submitted, they submitted 2, and then there was any red flags with any scores, we could ask for more. We had the ability to, but we just wanted to give people as much time as possible. That's definitely the indie schedule, and then teams to follow in October.
Like I'm curious about that. So like that's obviously asking for 1 or 2 videos, like even up to 10. Like one person can handle that. But like if you're asking for everyone to submit videos and then like manpower wise, that's surely a big increase.
Huge. Yeah, huge. I mean, look, you can't expect us to watch every single video front to back. And I think it's understood what they're looking at the CrossFit Games and their team that, that's not the objective, but we'll have all the videos at our disposal. So then out of the ones we do watch, there are definitely several that we'll watch front and back. And then depending on if there are any red flags from those, and we'll also like site check each and every one of them, which is quick. Like, you click the link, make sure it's the duration, watch a few reps of each movement, go to the next one, go to the next one. That's not the case for all of them. We will watch them front and back, but it gives us an opportunity if there are any real red flags that we can peruse all of them. Instead of us in the past, we'd actually reach out to those athletes and say, hey, thank you for sending these. We need all of your videos now, and we need them within 12 hours. It creates an unrealistic expectation for the athlete, and it puts a lot of strain on our team. There's about 30 to 40 judges that will support over the course of this process. And, we're not watching everybody down the leaderboard. We're sticking to those people that are in qualifying positions. And then we also watch videos for scores that will affect those that are qualifying. So like we'll sort it by individual workout and look at the top 50, just hypothetically speaking, depending on what the workout is, and then make sure that there aren't any significant outliers. But it is a tedious process. For sure.
You're all very pink today. Yes, this was definitely planned and wasn't just an ad hoc match that we did.
Ironically, I'm in the office and there's somebody's birthday today. So we have a Loud and Live part of, Wodapalooza is part of Loud and Live, a larger organization, and our floor probably has 50 people for somebody's birthday. I didn't get the memo, but I happen to wear pink. Everybody is wearing pink for her birthday.
Oh, that was
It's even more ironic.
yeah, God, you could have made yourself look like an awful dick if you turned up in like black and they were like, oh, Dylan doesn't care about the rest of us.
Pretty close this morning too. It's pretty close.
There, I assume that's Tebow, my favorites. You're one of ours as well, Tebow. Vindicate is there. He actually had a stall at Wodapalooza last year. I'm curious about like so we'll come back to next January again, and I want to talk about September as well. But we'll say like Wodapalooza is on in say January of this year, 2023. It kicks off the year. It's like there's a lot of pressure on it. There's a lot to live up to. Like there's a danger as well of when you're like previewing an event or like start trying to build up a bit of hype and stuff that you can kind of like over promise or like be like it's going to be amazing. It's like anniversary and it's huge and then like the more you do that, the more it's like shit. What if we let people down? Is it the dream spot being like the first on the calendar year and like just kicking off things yourselves, or is it like, does it come with additional pressure of like that, similar to the money thing, I guess, the ceiling of like, well, if we make it better and better every year, then like we have to kind of keep making it better, because if we don't, it's going to be seen as a failure.
I would say I think we are properly positioned on the calendar. But with that said, I think it's gotten tougher and tougher every year with the uncertainty of the way in which the season will unfold with changes and such, right? And then also other events trying to find their own place on the calendar. So we don't want to be in a position where we're stepping on other events' toes and vice versa, right? Like we're trying to help elevate this and not, put us all in a position where we're essentially cannibalizing each other. But I would say the pressure is on every year, and I think it's actually what drives me and the entire team, frankly. And it has been that way for all 12 years, is how do we up the ante? There's always going to be those things, Peter, that are like really low hanging and easy to fix. Like there are things that I have on there's a whiteboard over here. That's part of why I grade out. List of items is a big whiteboard, and there's different categories of the things that we're working on. And I'd say like, one of the biggest ones is ticketing and creating a way for the experience for people that are there in attendance to get what they expect, which is the ability to watch the competition, right? Like have a seat, not feel like they have to wait. So we have those little easy, I don't want to say they're easy to fix, but there are things that are low hanging that are relatively simple to address.
Yeah.
As long as we address them, we don't ignore what that feedback is, and we always keep our ears down. So the pressure is certainly there to improve, but then with all those low hanging fruit things, they do make it sometimes easy. And then sometimes, look, it's just like with fitness, right? Like you spend more time focusing on strength, but maybe your metabolic conditioning goes down and you're like, okay, I got better here, but now I need to go back over here and tweak over here the next year. So it's this like constant tweaking to create the perfect formula, which, partially being luck, partially being this amazing brand that we've created, partially being the attention from the community, the venue, like all these factors contribute to what makes Wodapalooza so special. And so there's also like a notion of not wanting to tweak too much because we've got a good formula, where other events are like, dang, how does Wodapalooza do it? And they try to replicate and do things certain ways. But it's always on our mind of like, how do we elevate the experience? And I think, again, the hunger and the anxiety around making that a reality is what keeps us all pushing in that same direction and making it happen year after year.
I was talking to the guys that run Marbella championship that's coming up in like October, and I was talking to them the other day, and they were kind of saying that like we were just kind of chatting about, I had just been to Madrid. I know that's like kind of formally one of your little babies that you're looking after as well. And like there's a thing with competitions where, so you obviously want, like, you need the elites to draw a crowd and to draw attention. Like that's just like, you also want to give them the earning opportunities. So you need to put up like a decent prize to attract them and to reward them for turning up in the first place. But then you also have like, you want your everyday athletes and you want the people who are like below that elite level all the way down to feel like as important and as valued, and you don't want to just be taken advantage or whatever. But then you also have like, they're the ones where there's more, like they're the most populated divisions, like the lower divisions, and they're the ones that have like, oh, I'm going to pay for my ticket and I'm going to, like yeah. So there is, and I see it with a lot of competitions where they start off and they're like, all right, we're going to run this competition now. The RX is where it is, or the elite is where it is, and that's where we're going to draw in the crowds and the people and stuff. But like, oh shit, well, we need the scale and we need the intermediate because that's the bread and butter, like that's the foundation of finance basically outside of sponsors. But then it's like, if we take on too many of them, we're going to detract from the elite side because we can't spin too many plates. And then if we don't take on enough of them, like we'll collapse within a year. Like it really is, the more you think about it, the more difficult it is to get to a stage where, even just to get to a stage where you need a different venue, like where you're starting in your gym or in your box and you're like, all right, we've outgrown this. To get to that stage is extraordinary for a competition to last that long and to grow at a sustainable rate. Like the fact that you guys have done it for so long is remarkable, really.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think it has been a wild ride, and we've certainly had steps back and steps forward over our history. I do think that we've elevated the experience year over year, but there's definitely been decisions made in some areas where maybe we didn't make a move fast enough to making a certain change, right? Like there's been times we've been reactive. Like when sanctionals came out, we needed to install a team of 4 division. So we went to male to female teams. We got rid of our teams of 3. Quickly realized once sanctionals ceased to be a thing that the community didn't like that as much as our traditional teams of 3. So we bounced back. But But then looking at going back to your most initial point, because you're talking about all the plates spinning, it is a fine and finicky balance between all of the stakeholders. Like we talk about athletes, we talk about volunteers, we talk about brands, we talk about spectators. So like
is it possible to have a hierarchy there? Like, do you have to treat them all like, obviously the sponsors are like paying big bucks, but like if you devalue the athletes, they won't come back. If you devalue the spectators, there's a danger they won't come back. If you devalue the sponsors or fail on your whatever ROI or whatever to them, they're going to be pissed off.
And they all affect each other. So like, okay,
Yeah.
we piss off the athletes, and then the athletes don't want to come back. So then the value for the brands is less. So it's like this. It is literally like it's not a normal scale. It's like it's like that, you don't know, that little toy of the eagle balancing on your finger. You just push down on one side, it's going to fall. So it's tough. You've got to continue to elevate all of them, and that's just putting people in position within your team, delegating accordingly to make sure that they own their one category, and they have to see the bigger picture and understand all the pieces of the pie, but they need to be so protective and so focused around enhancing their portion of the pie, whether it be, members of our team, Sasha, is so focused on media and marketing, making sure that what people see that are the fans is top notch. You've got our head of athletes. She's making sure the athlete experience is the best in the world, at least to the extent that we can. We have a whole team that focuses on partnership, and that just stems from there. But when you talk about the community divisions versus the elite, I also think that's been a fine balance, because without the elite participation in the event, we won't garner the same amount of eyeballs, which will bring less brand partnerships, will bring less spectators potentially. And on the athlete side, I think a big part of what's made Wodapalooza so special over the years is the mass participation and the desire for people to want to earn the right to compete on the same stage as the elite. So, I've seen some of the calls on our post of the prize purse of like, how, what we should pay. Everybody should have a chance to win some money. That's always been something we've toyed with. But always landed on with the way our qualifier works, that if you land in a division other than elite, based on where you placed in the qualifier, because you don't sign up for a specific division, you sign up for the mass division, and based on where you fall, you qualify. Well, what's stopping someone from sandbagging, ended up in the open division, and then offering a prize there? Like, I would intentionally sandbag and be in that division and then just do it to vie for a prize. So it's like all this confluence of factors all impacting each other at the same time. It's hard to put on paper what takes priority over another. I think, and so the best thing we can do is just take them on a case-by-case basis and do our best to elevate everything all at once.
Yeah. But even like the reward is, I don't compete, so what the fuck do I know? But like in my mind, there was a team of 3 Irish females won the RX division last year, and like the reward for them was the fact that they went to Wodapalooza and stood on the podium and won and competed and what, like, that's the, you know what I mean? Like, I guess it just depends. Like, you kind of need to know your place as well. Like, you kind of need to know, like, if you go to the games as a teenager, you're not going to get the same as like Laura when she wins. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's just, everyone has their place, and just that's it. You have your place in the ecosystem, and that's it. Like, it's nice to be like, oh, everyone should get paid, and it's like, yeah, like, great, like, and we'll all walk around and our farts will smell like roses and everything will be amazing. But like, there is a reality as well where it's like, that's not really possible that everyone gets 30 grand for going, you know what I mean? It's like,
some of them want anything, some of them want something, right? But then even then you start doing that, and then it's tough to avoid criticism.
Within 2 years, it's like, yeah, we want more, and yeah, why aren't we getting the same as them, and etc. Yeah, it's tricky. Like, it is hard, and you can't please everyone. But I guess, like you say, you have your stakeholders and you have your people that you have to keep happy so that it can keep happening. And would those people rather be paid this year and never have Wodapalooza again, or would they rather have Wodapalooza on every year? Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's a tricky one. Mikey Aldris, great talk already. I don't know, I'll send you his video on Sam Stewart later on. He did a video for Built for Athletes. It's unbelievable. It's like a love letter to Irish CrossFit. Like, it's so good. Dryer Dagger says, if you qualify for Wodapalooza, I'll take pictures of you on the house. They will be post-mortem photographs. They'll be just me lying in pose on the ground, dead. But yeah, here we go, Travis. It's too hot for Peter at Wodapalooza. He'd literally melt. I have, and I would again. After the event then, so you mentioned there that, like, ticketing and spectators was a concern after, say, not last year, but last event, whatever, January. You guys finish on the Sunday. do you take time off then? Do you say like, right, let's meet back here next, well, not here, but like at the office next Monday, and we'll have a debrief? Or do you do it like straight away? Like, what's your time frame for that kind of? Do you decompress, or what do you do?
Yeah, I didn't leave the park until the Friday after. So the event ends on Sunday, and I was there every single day after that through Friday, as a few other members of our team do, just seeing the loadout process, which is, it's funny if you were to see that park, like if you were to go to just Google Earth right now and look at Bayfront Park, it is a blank canvas, and that has a lot of qualities to it because you can do a lot of cool things, but also it means it takes a long time to build, and it takes not quite as long, but pretty long to break down. And I think at that point in time, you're not quite as motivated to do so. But then
Just leave it. Just leave it here till next year. It's like when you have to take down your Christmas tree, and you're like, just put a sheet on it. We'll just take the sheet off in November. It's fine.
I wish. Yeah, that public park. So that venue is owned by the city of Miami. Essentially, there's a trust that oversees it, and the residents there greatly value their ability to walk their dogs and have some green space to be able to go to the bathroom. I'm sure you can certainly understand that. So honestly, the fact that we get it every year has always been a blessing to us. I think we've come across some challenges in the past with other events that are coming in and looking to maybe occupy the space. It is a big Miami-based venue. They do a lot of big events there, like the Ultra Music Festival. But anyway, back to your question about timing around debriefing. We're all taking notes throughout the event. Like I don't know, most event organizers, I'm sure, will tell you they have a note on their phone that they're just continuing to put like scribbled notes that may mean, hopefully in a week you'll understand what you were trying to say, but like signage not good, right? Or front gate organization. Like you'll put those little notes to then come back to and expand upon. So everybody on our team is doing that throughout the entirety of the event, and then it just after the event, probably Monday or Tuesday, it's a small handful of us that are still there on site in the week after, but we have like maybe 50 what we would call head staff that are working in some form or fashion. We'll send out surveys to all of our volunteers and athletes right away. We will send out emails to our greater team to start populating their notes on a postmortem doc. And then I would say it's 2 weeks later in which we have a full debrief sit down going through all the categories. That's pretty much a full day's worth. And then we'll have individual calls with each of our partners and some others just to get the full download on how they felt like the experience went. Some things, we're trying to address everything, but there's some recurring themes that appear across everybody. And you're like, okay, that's like, has to be our North Star going into the next year. And a lot of those things are the things that we're addressing this year.
Like, fair play to you, because I try sometimes to take notes on the notes app on my phone and often come back and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what was I talking about? It's like, what does red box mean? I'm just like, I have no idea what I was talking about in like June. It's like, I don't know. I'm trying to remember typing it. Like, yeah, that's impressive. And then like, you must be exhausted because you MC it as well, don't you?
No.
You were on the mic last year though, weren't you?
I think I did maybe some briefs. No, there's an MC that sounds. He's a good friend of mine. His name's Chris. He is like become the Floridian MC. He's kind of at every local comp, and he comes down to Wodapalooza, and he is again sounds like exactly. People are like, Dylan, I heard you out there, and I'm like, no, that's not me. That's an Asian kind of sound alike. That we
whatever an audio doppelganger is. Yeah, that's cool because I was like, geez, like, give up, Dylan. Like, like it's like you can only do so much. Like, just pass the mic. But yeah, okay, if it is someone else, that's fair. But you must still be exhausted because like I'm assuming it's nonstop. Like from well before, like if you're talking about it takes a week to take it down, it surely takes longer to put it up. So as all that's going on, you have to be there, you have to be ready. Then you're there till whatever 10, 11 at night. You're back in first thing in the morning, and then you have the week afterwards. Like, do you just take a month off in February, or how do you manage that?
No, that doesn't work that way here. I wish we could. It definitely there's ebbs and flows to the season. There are times when it's more intense. Like I'll maybe leave the office earlier some days. Maybe I'll take a day or two off. But our team is literally working year round. I mean, like, think about it. The year before, we were going into Granite Games. The same team was producing the Granite Games. We've done stuff at the CrossFit Games, helping with brand related stuff, and then also having Wodapalooza. It is a year-round endeavor. What I'll tell you is probably like 2 weeks ago is when, I think right after the U.S. Labor Day, like what we just had here, is when it sort of really starts to ramp up, and I'll start to have later nights here at the office, like coming in at 8 or 8:30 and be done by, I don't know, 7, 8, or 9, depends. And that includes Friday. And the whole team is working like that. Like anyone that's working on this year-round full-time, like they're putting in substantive hours, and we're certainly it's an adrenaline high for sure, because it's so exciting to see this thing come together, this like 11 and a half months of preparation for this one payoff event, and then you have it. And then certainly there's like the post event come down where you're, it's not like, it's not a depression, I don't want to say that, it's just like all that anticipation, all that adrenaline goes away.
Yeah, you just got a void like of yeah.
So you feel almost ill, like physically ill for a little bit, but there's still so much to do in post that it doesn't really end.
I was like borderline depressed when I came back, and I was the same when I came back from Madison. I was like, God, I just feel so empty. And then I was like, I was quickly like, okay, I have kids and a wife, and like things are fine. But like there was like on the plane back, I was just like, oh shit, like it's done. And I was the same. Come back from Miami, I was like, fuck, like what do I do now? Like what purpose does my life have? And then I was like, oh yeah, I've got kids and a job.
How funny! It reminds me of like when you said that vacation on the, maybe it's similar to you. It was a vacation, right? I didn't know it was work for you as well, but you like look forward to that vacation so much. That plane ride back from a vacation is like one of the very worst. You're so miserable knowing the next day you got to be in the office or do your, yeah, man.
Yeah. And you notice all the shit things about the plane as well. Like on the way over, you're like, your knees are in your chin, you're getting banged by people, you just don't notice any of it. Whereas on the way back, you're like, this fucking plane is, like everything just sticks out. Like, yeah, it's like going out on a night out drunk and like not realizing what's happening. And then you go out once sober and you're like, nightclubs are the worst. It's like people are standing on me, but you never notice it when you're drunk. You announced then this year, so because like, because January is so intense and it's, Miami has its 11 and a half month build up. You announced this year that you're going to do it twice. So you're going to launch a second event in September in California. Like why would you do that to yourself?
Forget the workload. We can handle the workload. I think frankly the community has been asking for a legitimate event in Southern California, right? Like ever since the games have left, there's been a void there. And so the time was ripe. We've dabbled in owning and operating other events, whether it be the Granite Games or partnering with Alfonso on the Madrid Championship, and those were all worthwhile ventures and helped elevate the sport. But what we come to realize is that Wodapalooza is the asset, the brand that the community has come to know and love, and our ability to replicate that is not so hard on the opposite coast. So honestly, man, the time was right. The event's been around for now going on 12 years.
How long was that in the works? How long was California like, pinned on a board somewhere?
I will tell you that the discussion around expansion has been going on for maybe 8 years, like even pre Loud and Live getting involved in.
Is the trepidation there like, what if we overreach, or what if we do two and it doesn't go well, and then can we still do one, or is that the problem?
No problem. No, there wasn't a problem. There's always a SWOT analysis done of like, what are the potential threats to doing it there, and will we cannibalize our California reach to the Miami event? But just based on the location and the time of year, we don't feel like it will cannibalize at all. As a matter of fact, we think it'll just do more to elevate the community and elevate the brand. So no concerns. And I think we're going to position those events differently in terms of the way in which they're structured. And yeah, without giving away too much, because that's all a lot in the works right now behind the scenes. Like that's outside of planning for the qualifier and getting ready for the Miami event, where our team is spending a lot of time in what we're calling like the discovery phase of trying to determine exactly the best way to structure that event so that it appeals to those stakeholders as much as possible.
So does that mean that potentially it might not be what we know in Miami? It might not be like threes, ones, like it might not be like that?
Correct. Yeah. Like, I mean, we're looking at where we're positioned, right? It's like 6 weeks after the games, 6 weeks before Rogue, Madrid's in there as well. I'm not saying that definitively. I'm just telling you we're exploring all avenues to make sure that it's structured in the best way possible to ensure its success.
I always thought a paired competition would be really cool. Like if you had male pairs and female pairs.
I've heard a lot of that recently, actually. I've heard that from some folks.
Yeah. I mean, I said it best, but yeah, like if you, because it's like, that's in my experience, that's the bread and butter of competitions here anyway. Like in Ireland is like, you'd always do a paired competition as your first competition and whatever. And then like Yeah, I think that could be cool.
It's easier to team up.
I'll take a small percentage of whatever happens.
It's easy to put together teams of two. There's no question about that.
That's it. You don't need to rely on like that third guy. Fuck him. We have two. Like he's sitting on the fence. Like let him get his splinters. We'll just take the two of us.
That third's going to be the one athlete that's holding y'all back.
Yeah.
Sandbagger. Yeah, it definitely, it's hard to put together teams of three. There's no doubt about it, which is why we structure our qualifier the way we do. I don't know if you were aware of this, but basically you could do the qualifier wherever you want in the world. Like you don't, it's not where you're tagging people in and out. Maybe that takes away some of the strategy and fun of working out alongside people. We save that for Miami. We try to make it a little more attainable. The only other option would be teams of two, but teams of three has just worked so well as a formula.
Yeah. Do you try to emulate the what word am I looking for? Like the vibe? Like do you try and mirror what? Do you do like a Californian version of the Miami night party thing, or do you change like like branding? Are you like, okay, well California is so different from Miami, let's do a different style of event as well?
No, I would say mostly we're talking about like structure of competition that would change. But we are trying to emulate exactly what we have that works so well in Miami. Although there's different people, right? And they have different interests. I think Miami's known for being like an EDM spot, so maybe the music will be a little bit different. But as far as like what you'll find from an experiential perspective, lots of brands, and the ability to shop. We call the Waza experience, we talk about all things that happen outside of the field of play. That is something for the fans to enjoy. Brands, subject matter expertise, the ability to work out and get into clinics and seminars, et cetera. We're talking about having a podcast stage, bringing the gauntlet there. So a lot of the elements will be similar. What I'm talking about is what happens on the competition floor.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah. Because it is I'm kind of like, and I'm not just, well, maybe I am, but I'm not intending to like blow smoke up your ass or whatever. But like, it was one of the events that like, when I started doing this, I was like, I really, really want to go there. And I've been to like, so I've gone to like semifinals in Europe. I've gone to like Lowlands and Strength and Depth when they were semifinals. I've done like Filthy. I've gone to the games a couple of times, like working at it and spectating at it. I've been to Madrid, and like Wodapalooza just stands out. Now maybe this is biased because it was like the first one I was at, and it was the first one that I felt like I belonged at something or whatever. But like, it's fucking nuts how good it is. Like, just purely like rose tinted glasses, like ignoring any of the problems I'm sure you see when you look at the event. You're like, oh, this didn't really work properly, and I would have liked if that was a bit smoother. But like, from my perspective, it's like everyone is in one place. Everyone is in a good mood. Like the athletes have to walk through vendor village to get to wherever they're going, or they have to walk through the front gate. There's no like segregation. And they're not like mobbed the same way as they are. Like there's time and place kind of thing is just taken for granted. Like the people there know, like, okay, I can go and see them at the fucking podium stand or whatever at 3:00, but like, just say hi and let them walk past. Like there's no like I was in Madrid there, and this is no disrespect to Madrid, but like Noah was there, and he's like so giving with his time that I was like, man, just say no. And he was like, no, I like doing it. And I was like, but come on, man, there's like 50 people standing there. Just say I have to go. Right. And like Chandler was like, I literally have to grab him and drag him away. Like he will never stop until they're all happy. But like at Wodapalooza, he can just walk through because people just know, like, oh, like, that's cool. I just saw Noah, but they know not to be like, oh, can I just, and getting in the way and stuff. That was really cool. The vendors, the amount of vendors that are there is nuts. And like all outside, all like, like strip mall type, like you can walk. It's not like, there's not like snake approach. Like in the games, you can easily, when you're walking around, you can be like, oh shit, I didn't even know this like bit was here. But like in Wodapalooza, it's like A to B, and you have to go past all the stuff. And like Travis said it here, like anyone questioning going to Wodapalooza, go. Like honestly, just fucking go. And I assume SoCal will be the same, but Miami is just like, it's crazy. Like it's so good. Like one of the best. Like, and I was so fucked. Like I was so tired and physically ill because I was so tired, because I just did not, like, there was no adaptation, like nothing settled. The only good thing was when I came back, I had zero jet lag because I never actually, my internal clock never changed. But like even at that level of like, I think I might die, it was like I was just the best. With that in mind, you mentioned earlier on that like spectators was one of the things that you all had on your notes at the same time. How can you address that? Like, what can you do? Because if the demand is there and if people are buying tickets and people are turning up and people want to see all, like, Tina Hills and all the different spots, how do you fix that? Because you can't. There's no. I mean, unless you build something out in the water, you're kind of stuck where you are.
Yeah, we're definitely at a point of no additional seating. We are able to add some to Flagler this year. I think we're going to add, I want to say like another 400 seats there. And then on Bay side, we literally just had a call yesterday with our seating vendor. Um, I want to say that we're adding another like 200 there. But I guess the moral is that we just have to restructure the way in which we've done ticketing. So historically, we would just sell a festival pass, which would grant people access to the entire venue, no matter what, like anywhere they want. And so this year, we're making modifications to essentially you can buy a festival pass, which is similar to, I would say, if I had to compare it to something like the games campus pass, and then
Yeah.
you would buy a dedicated seat in the Coliseum. However, we're not selling dedicated seats. We're selling what's going to be called elite pass access, so elite festival access, which would then guarantee you a seat in Flagler and Bayside, the two main stages during the elite. Now, with that said, Tina Hills will still play host to the elite, and that will be open to the public. It's just that big green grassy hill people can find a vantage point to sit on. And then the other thing we're doing as well is that we're going to have a lot of, I see the question there about are there plans for jumbotrons outside the comp floors. We're going to do a much better job in ensuring that there will be places to watch the competition if you didn't purchase a festival elite pass, because this year, if you have an elite pass, you're going to be able to make sure you have a seat somewhere within the ability to view those stages. So that's the biggest change. And I think it's going to come with maybe a little bit of pain, because part of that is the coaches' passes that athletes get historically. Again, it would get you access anywhere in the venue, but now only people specifically with that elite band, that special ticket, will get access during the elite. However, when you have festival access, you'll still be able to access all the stages when the elite are not going. So
Okay.
like if you're going to see like your mom, brother, sister, you can just buy a festival pass if you have no interest in watching the elite. And you'll be able to get in. And there'll also be more seats on Flagler, where we're going to allow overflow people that don't have that elite pass the ability to access. So essentially, you're guaranteed a seat, but there's still a chance you'll be able to watch on Tina Hills. You'll be able to watch on Flagler. And a lot of that's going to come out here in the next couple of weeks, like the actual going live with ticket sales and the pricing. That's coming up here really soon.
Okay. And then does that affect media access then as well for like, is that still the same kind of section? Because I know one of the things last year was like, oh, buy a ticket and you can sit, and so you'd need an elite pass basically to be photographing.
That's going to be addressed. We're going to have a separate media pit, and we're going to be very careful with the way in which there was just a lot of folks last year that were blocking viewability of the floor that had cameras. So the answer to your question is that we're going to have to address that, and that is in the works. And I'll wait for us to publish our info on it. But mostly, we'll have separate areas for media. We're not going to necessarily allow folks to just buy VIP tickets to be able to hog up 4 or 5 seats. It just becomes a huge challenge for the paying spectators.
Yeah. It's good though as well, like, because oftentimes when people hear criticism of something, they get their back up and they're like, hey, fuck you, man. Like, you don't understand. Like, like excuses start coming out, or, like doubling down sometimes happens or whatever. So it's good. Like you say, you're going to piss people. People would be pissed off anyway. If you didn't do anything, people would be pissed off. If you changed it one way, they'd be pissed off. If you change it the way you're going to change it, people are going to be pissed off. So like, you just kind of have to take that as part of the course, I guess. What about when you announced SoCal? Was the reaction how you expected it to be? Like, were you anticipating a certain type of reaction? Do you allow yourself to expect a certain type of reaction? And then did it match up with what you thought it would be?
That's an interesting question. I would say our team, we were very excited about bringing this to market. I think we rolled out a pretty cool, from our perspective, without the campaign that went behind it, with this kind of mysterious van traveling across the country and then coming live with it. Was, for us, it was very it was climactic for us. It was almost cathartic, because we've been building up to this moment for so long. I would say that the reaction from the community has been as positive as we would have liked. For us, it was we're just telling the community that we're coming, but there's a lot more important information coming out about the structure and format over the coming months, a lot of which we plan to roll out around Miami so that we can educate the community. And I think once they see what we're working on there, which will be very unique, I think that's when, now we're saying, hey, Wodapalooza is bringing the brand over. People were pumped. Brands are pumped. The amount of outreach has been pretty darn good. But then once we release some of this additional info around that format, and I think that's when we expect the reaction to be crazy. I would say it did meet expectations.
Yeah, because it's kind of like when someone meets your girlfriend or your wife or something for the first time, and you're like, "Oh, please let them like them." Like let everyone like each other, and like you don't want to go home and have your wife or girlfriend be like, "Oh, he was a dick," and you're like, "Fuck," or like you don't want your friend being like, "Yeah, she was fine, I guess."
Yeah,
it's tricky.
We had the reaction we wanted for sure. I
Yeah.
mean, I think that until we came out to market with it, we certainly had plenty of conversations behind the scenes to make sure we were making the right move in terms of timing, location, etc. But it was also a really good chance for us to do a pulse check of like, okay, here it is. Like, what's everybody feeling? And I would say that I think that the message has been largely positive. People haven't voiced negativity. I think the only thing we have heard is that, which has warranted the response that we're giving, how does this work as an off-season event for the elite? Because people, we don't want to take away from folks having an off season or not having an off season. Rather, we don't want them to have to pick between us and other large events like Rogue. Like we're not in the business of that. Rogue's a partner of ours. We also don't want it to cannibalize Miami. So again, considering those four groups, how do we put the event in position to be successful? And success is guided by those four groups.
Is it hard because like you mentioned the off season there, and you have the games, right, and then obviously like historically there's kind of an off season there, like a kind of a mini off season, but then a lot of people have to ramp back up. Now people are ramping back up for, I suppose, more so in Europe, but they're ramping back up for Madrid at like end of September. Then you've got people are ramping up for Rogue. Then other people are like, oh, I'm not going to compete until Dubai. And then other people are like, well, you can either do Dubai or Wodapalooza, or you can do Rogue and Wodapalooza or Rogue and Dubai, but you can't really do all of them, even though like, some people, the Djukiches, for example, disagree and they just like do whatever. Is it like you talk about like not wanting to cannibalize and stuff, like, but is it kind of a thing of like, how can I word this? Is it kind of a thing of like, well, fuck Rogue, like this is our thing and we're doing it, so who cares? Or like, screw Dubai, I don't really care, like let's just do our thing. Like, do you say to them like, hey, we're thinking of doing this competition or blah blah? Like, how do you approach that?
There's definitely not an all. At least that's not my
Yeah.
personal personality. It's obviously a team decision, and I'm part of a larger organization. But I would say from my side, I think there's a desire to play well in the sandbox with everybody, because this whole notion of the cliche rising tides raise all ships, talk about stepping on people's toes. From my side, we Rogue is a partner of ours.
I was just going to say, you also don't want Rogue to be like, get your own equipment.
Not even that. We want to be good. We want to be good partners. We want to be good stewards. Yeah. So no, having a conversation with them, letting them know. And then again, I think the format will speak for itself, and that like the last thing we're trying to do is make people pick. So,
oh man, Dylan, you're fucking killing me with these little like, oh, it's no one's like, it's not seen, and it's people will be so surprised.
I don't mean to like like the kid that my like trying to keep a hidden behind a curtain, but it's just that I also want to give credit in two places. Tier has been a tremendous partner of ours, and they, you actually asked the question earlier about like who really drew us to this point. I talked about it being in the works for 8 years from when Wodapalooza started, but really Tier has been the driving force behind a lot of this expansion. They have really made it abundantly clear that like the community wants this. We know that it can be. We believe in you as our partners, and I would say if we were pushing for it, if anyone was really like put the nail in the coffin for us, it was Tier. And that's just I'm not talking about just a financial sponsorship commitment. It's really their belief in us, and also their desire to elevate the sport. Like genuinely, their CEO, Matt DiLorenzo, cares so much about the community, but also about the ability for this to be a legitimate earning opportunity for his athletes. Like you can see, he's really steering and pushing along the growth of the sport, and single-handedly in a lot of ways. I think you could say, just look at how many athletes they have sponsored, and as a result, I'm sure they're benefiting as a business. But it's been fun to really walk hand in hand with them in this process, and I speak to that along when you account of the point about the format, we're really doing that with them and making sure that it's the right thing for all.
Yeah. Um, like O'Keefe was there up until like whatever 2 years ago, and you were there with him, and you were kind of like a, kind of a little. I don't want to say a little enlarged, but kind of like like a duo. And then he left, and I kind of got the impression, like maybe I was way off mark, but I kind of got the impression that like after he left, that like, oh, maybe Dylan might go, like might not go with him, but like might be like, oh, do I want to do this? Like, do I want to keep going? Like, like, do I want to take over that kind of role and keep going? Was there ever a point where you were like, maybe I'll just stop? And then because you obviously haven't, are you like glad of the fact that you haven't? Like, is this like can you just go indefinitely?
That's a great one. A good question. I would say that when Matt departed, um, Matt was a really good friend of mine. I've been friends with Matt for, I want to say, since I started CrossFit, maybe a year into my CrossFit journey. But he wasn't always involved with Waza. When I started, it was the founders, Guido and Steve, who I consider Guido like a brother and a mentor of mine. And then when he exited, they brought Matt in right after, and it was kind of like it was seamless transition, and then leading to Matt's exit a couple years ago. Look, these events, they do take a massive toll on anyone that's involved in them. But it's the passion for it and the passion for this community that has kept me going year over year. I know that sounds so political, but like genuinely, I really love what I do. And at times, you get stuck in like this. I told you, we started a week ago, and these nights are going to go super late, and we're going to beat the crap out of ourselves because it is a lot of work to get across the finish line. But that payoff is so great at the end of the tunnel, that honestly, I don't consider ever moving on from this, because I have to pinch myself, and sometimes I have to have these moments of clarity. And I know my team does the same thing, where they're like, there are so many people that are looking for an opportunity to do what we do, because there are not very many roles within this community that would allow us to operate professionally and put on something that means so much to so many. So like, it does require some self-reflection when we're in low points of like, wow, we're really crushed. There's a lot of work right now. Our souls are being crushed. But once you have that moment of clarity and self-reflection, it does bring it all back into perspective. So I would tell you the answer to your question is, as of right now, I think I could go forever, but time will tell. I mean, who knows how I feel in a year? I mean, I'm maybe a year into being married to my wife, Katie, and we've talked about settling down. What does that look like then? I can't imagine doing what I do if I had a baby. I don't know how you, for example, you can have your job, it's just, to me, it's mind boggling.
They're asleep, man. They're asleep. You just do everything when they're asleep.
Exactly.
So basically what you need to do is you need to build a little duplex attached to the office. That's the only way to do it. Or we're like, guys, I'm working from home, but I'm still, like there's only certain ways around it. Yeah, it is remarkable. Like, and it's, I've seen you walk around, because you still MC events in the off season and stuff. I've seen you like do stuff, and I've seen you like, you did the tier thing at the games, and you kind of helped out at the locker room and stuff like last year in the games, I think. And like, it's just that Duracell bunny type, like nonstop. It's just like, I don't understand. Like, you're like, oh, I don't know how you do it. It's like, I literally have no idea how people like you do what you do year round. It's just fucking nuts. But then I suppose one of the things, you're obviously looking for punishment with the SoCal thing. Is there a part of you that thinks, again, I'm conscious of like the cannibalism thing, and like, there's a lot of off-season events and stuff, but is there a part of you that's like, well, if SoCal goes well, what about like Europe or Australia or somewhere else?
I would be lying if I told you those conversations weren't already unfolding. I have full confidence that SoCal is going to be successful, and I genuinely mean that.
Yeah.
I just think we here at Loud and Live, with our partnerships, with the kind of this rising tides raise all ships mentality, like, I have no question that we know what it takes to put on a successful event, and I know that they will be. And then the third, a third, fourth, or fifth, we're continuing to analyze what our plans look like beyond this coming year. Before we announced this expansion, we had talked about, Wodapalooza, Barcelona. I'm talking years ago. This is now like, you're talking like 3 or 4 years ago at the closest. We've talked about Wodapalooza, Australia. But the point is, right now, we're heavily focused on making sure that Miami stays successful. That's our key focus. And then secondly, making sure we're able to create a winning formula in SoCal. And then from there, we'll consider further expansion. There's no question about it.
Because it could be like like the what's the name of that thing? Like the Diamond League, at athletics when
Triple
the Olympics isn't
Crown, or
on.
yeah, one of the
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, be cool.
Yeah, man. Look, I think there's definitely a market for it. I think people love the Wodapalooza brand. I think for us, it's about finding the right brand fit in the markets that fit that brand. Like, I don't think you could pop this up in I don't want to say like in Germany or like Detroit, Michigan. It wouldn't have the same feel. It's got to capture the ambiance of what
Yeah, it
Miami has
wouldn't.
created.
It wouldn't float in Belfast. I'll just say that. It was
Well,
like
I know. I'm going to cross that off the list.
So to recap, I'm just conscious of the time. I know you're a busy man, so you're the big like further increase in prize. I assume like the hats will get even bigger as well for Pat and the lads as well. The qualifiers, if you want a chance at winning like 75 grand, or a third of 30 grand, so I suppose 10 grand, unless one of your teammates is really good, then maybe they'd command more. So the team one, we can kind of kick that into touch for another month. That's like start of October, 12th of October. And then as Barbell Spin is reporting here, tomorrow is the kickoff of the online elite or online qualifiers. It's an open qualifier and you'll be ranked per your results, I suppose. And then Monday is the deadline for registration. So if you want to get involved, you have until Monday to register and to do that first workout, which HWPO have previewed on the Wodapalooza page and their own page. And then after that deadline closes, that first workout, if you're not in, you're not in. That's it. You'll have to wait until your team of 3 and throw your hat in that ring, I guess.
You got it. That is correct there. And then also, if you compete at any of the LATAM Cup events, we've partnered with a bunch of events in South and Central America, not to plug that, but if you compete there and you're a winner, those spots will then earn a spot to compete in Miami as well in the LATAM Cup division. So just a couple other ways. Or you can sign up for the Gauntlet. You can sign up for the MIA Classic. There's going to be a way for you to get into the ring if the goal is to compete in Miami.
And I deliberately left this question at the end in case he told me to piss off and hung up. So after the CrossFit Games, Don was at the PFAA and he was talking about, like, you guys can make some money with this and, we can blah, blah. And there's like, there's been talk about this deal with ESPN that CrossFit have, and that there might be some obligations to have not just events in Madison be streamed in order to give a return on investment in that. And as Will says, any talks on streaming licensing deal as part of CrossFit deal. So as in, like, CrossFit could say to Wodapalooza, we'll turn up, we'll do the heavy lifting, and we'll, ESPN will show it. It's good for CrossFit, it's good for Wodapalooza, it's good for everyone. Is there any kind of talks of that?
I'm trying to figure out how to hang up here. No, just kidding. No, not at all. It's certainly not an off limits question. We're exploring it, and it's going to come across as a generic answer. But in the past we've streamed on. That's another one, by the way. A big takeaway for us is improving the community streaming experience. So that's going to be enhanced. There's no question about it. I promise you on that. We're exploring all distribution options right now. In the past, it's lived on YouTube. But we've made some pretty strong moves internally with staff at the enterprise level from a Loud and Live perspective, that includes some folks that have a lot of experience in this arena. So I can tell you for sure that we're considering it. I think it's just going to be a matter of timing and what the interest is like from both us and them. Like, what's the value proposition that can be offered? I mean, I don't know about you. I think I heard some positive things about it being on ESPN. I also think the paywall probably ruffled some feathers. I think that's it's a slippery slope. I think it depends on, we want to make sure that we're making this accessible to everybody. So, answer to your question, we'll have to wait and see. Nothing determined yet, I guess.
Yeah. Maybe not. Possible, but maybe not. Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Is it like you need money though, right? Like, you can't have CrossFit. Like, it's not really viable for Wodapalooza to say, sure, come and stream it and like just tag us. Like, you need like financial return, I guess.
It depends on how you derive monetization, right? Like,
yeah,
you can, the eyeballs from a stream could be covered by partnerships, right? Like, if you have deliverables within your sponsorships that include ad space, or and we find creative ways to showcase the brand, get more eyeballs. But then a lot of times, like, they'll sell literally ads within the inventory of within ESPN, which is a whole different animal. And then for those bigger networks, like, they typically charge for the space, right? Because they're the big dogs, they can make those types of decisions. So it's finding the right distribution platform and partner that will suffice. Because some will pay us. There's some, so you just got to find the right mix and the right blend.
Well, listen, thank you. Thanks for coming on. It's been great to catch up with you. Good luck with the launch tomorrow of your qualifiers and the late nights and video reviews and all that shit that you're bringing on yourself. Congrats. That was a terrible idea. Whoever's idea that was, all the video reviews. And yeah, we look forward to, we'll hopefully see you in January.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out how to get you involved in a more official way, Peter. Let's have that conversation sooner than later. And thank you for taking care of me on this as well.